And we're live. I am Christopher Gray. We are going to be playing the Great American Novel, the beta version, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out. We have a great table of players here with you, so I'll go ahead and go around the table, and so we can introduce ourselves, and then we'll get started. Let's start with Win, because you are the first person on my list.
Awesome. Hey, yeah, I'm Wendelin Reichel. I'm a game designer and writer, and probably my biggest claim to fame is I was on the core design team for the new Warhammer 40,000 Wrath and Glory RPG. I'm also a face for the Denver RPG meetup group and do some gaming charity work here in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, a Denver person. I'm from Denver. That reminds me, I need to call my parents. Okay, Kurt, you're next on my list.
All right. Well, see, I'm at the end of my list, so I didn't know I was going to go next. Hi, I'm Kurt. I make a podcast, and I've dabbled a little bit in some game design. I have a couple things that I'm excited to get in front of people at like Big Bad Con and stuff like that. But my biggest project right now is Pixel Scandal. We stream actual plays and podcast once a week and stuff like that. So talking about games.
Yeah. Awesome. And Katie is next after Kurt, according to my list here.
Hi, good morning. I'm Katie. I'm also on the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast podcast thing. And I just play in games because it's fun. Yeah. I don't design things. I don't make things. I just play in them. just play.
Okay, and Jean, looks like you're the last on the list. I'm sorry about that. I can't control how YouTube lists people.
I'm Gene. I have absolutely nothing to plug, but I'm the occasional antagonist for some of these players at local con. So.
Awesome. All right, great. So the Great American Novel is a narrative-driven story game. So our goal here, as we get started, is to come up with interesting characters that have motivations, and to figure out whether or not other characters are going to help with that motivation or get in the way of it. And then we're going to apply a literary structure on top of it. So we'll actually be going through a story, and by the time we're done, we will have played out the climax and the resolution, and what that's going to be. That's what we're going to set up first. So I think even before we look at the character archetypes, I'd like to take a moment to decide what we want the theme to be. There's a document in here, and I'll share my screen so that you can see it, where we can have, it's called the Settings and Conflicts tab, and on there's a section for themes. So the way this works is everybody's going to write a 1 to 3 themes. These are things that you would like to see in the game, things you would like to play out. It could be something as specific as Reconstruction, Deep South, or it could be I want to play out a Fall from Grace, or I'd like to figure out the horrors of war, or I want this. So it can be very specific, or it can be very broad. In general, since we're playing this raw, this is going to be there are 2 criteria that it needs to be uniquely Americana. This is something that you're not going to find in France, Africa, or anywhere else. It also needs to be realistic in its approach. Now, that means that we can have magic. It just has to be dealt with in a realistic way. So if you think about how magical realism happens in Chicano literature, things like that. But that's it. Those are really the only criteria, because we're going to play a Great American Novel. The rest of it's up to us. We can have aliens if you want them. So why don't we spend a moment? I'm going to figure out how to share my screen so that the viewers can see. And it's going to switch me over to, okay. Well, spend a moment while I'm figuring this out, to think about what the themes are. And we can openly discuss this, or you can just go ahead and start typing them in. The next thing we're going to do after that is vote on them as a group. Let's see here. There we go. I found the right screen.
So are we going to spitball, or are we just going to type stuff in here?
Just type stuff in. You might end up typing over each other. Just try to be conscious of where people are in the document. If we were at a table, what we'd be doing is writing on a index card and then putting the index card in the middle of the table, and then we would start check marking on that. But since we're virtual, we're going to use this spreadsheet. I know, everybody, we get to look at spreadsheets on Sunday morning.
Woo.
My bad.
And this is going to be like the hardest part for me.
Yeah, try not to look at each other because then it'll drive your thinking too much. Yeah, how to avoid that. Or if you want to doodle in another column. Oops, I forgot to print that into everybody.
Man, this is great radio right here.
Yeah. Now I've seen themes that were very specific, like Roswell. I want to play Roswell, right? But when you're doing this, think about in a general way what experience you would like to have this morning. What's the sort of thing? I mean, do you want it to be an action adventure? Do you want it to be a story game? Do you want it, or a story, a sweeping story? Do you want it to be a crime family? Do you want it to be we've had games where the entire hux of the conflict was over a land deal,
That's cool. Maybe we should kind of talk through like the setting we want to play. Would that be helpful to talk about first or not?
You can. What usually happens is after the themes, a setting is sort of revealed.
Okay.
But we can flip that if it's easier to think through it.
Either way.
Oh, I'm supposed to do this too. So let's see. We're also thinking about things we would like included. With the next step will be to discuss things that we don't want included.
Right.
All right, so I put in mine. I'm done. I don't know what you people are working on.
I'm good.
I'm fine for now.
All right, if we're good with this list, we can just start going in and checkboxing which ones you would like to experience yourself. There really is no hard rule on how many you can check. But if you check all of them, it's going to be a very complicated session. So think about your top 3 or even your top 1, and I'd like to play a good old-fashioned American Dream. I think that sounds fun. It's hard not to step on each other as we're...
Yeah.
I built it this way for the gauntlet because I know they're going to want a way to run it online. So, Jason Cordova, this is for you.
Nice.
I think we should all just vote for different things. So
I just grabbed a few. I just kind of stuck my vote on several of these.
All right, so it definitely looks like Fall from Grace is one that was popular, The American Dream. And the rest are sort of tied. So I would say those might be our themes.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Unless you feel strongly about another one. Are we good with that?
Mhm.
Sounds like a classic American novel.
Indeed, it does.
The next step is to go over lacunae. That's a literary term that means omitted. And so when you have historical manuscripts, there are some things that have been taken out either on purpose or an accident. And that's what lacunae is for. So, and lacuna is the singular, I think. Anyway, we'll call it lacunae. If you've experienced the lines and veils safety mechanic, it's a lot like that. And we're just going to kind of, but it's a little broader than that. Although it's like, okay, I don't want any car chases. All right. I don't want explicit violence, or it might be something that might be triggering for you. And lacunae is sort of a living document. We'll have, if we were at a table, we would have a single index card where you would write them all down, and the table would have them in front of them. So it's a cooperative play. We all need to know what our limits are. But you can add to it as we go on, especially if we'd establish a setting and we're like, okay, well, we might be playing Reconstructions Deep South, but I don't want to deal with, a particular theme that might bring up. So this can be as many or as few as you like. And there's two ways to do it. If you just put down the word, like I'm going to go ahead and put down, I'm going to put down explicit violence or gratuitous, I guess. I'll just call it explicit. Because I don't really want this to be an action adventure game. I spell explicit right? Close enough. I might also want to include like intimacy, but in parentheses. Intimacy. That means, though, I don't mind that being in the game, but I don't really want to play it out. So if something like that comes up, let's just fade to black or move the camera off and we'll move on. So those are a couple examples of lacunae. So they can be, again, very specific or general, or, you know what, we'll just decide it if we come upon it. You can do an X card things like, whoa, I don't want that. Then we'll add it to the lacunae. So go ahead, and if you have any, just drop them in, and we'll move on to the next step.
I think I'm good. I think resolving these when we reach them, if we ever reach them, is going to be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Next step then is to figure out what period we want to play in American history. Now I've run this game a lot. So I played 1947 Roswell. I've played 1920. Oh no, I think we were in the 30s. 1930s New Orleans. I've played in. Oh boy, I don't know. The list goes on and on. So American history goes all the way back to the 1600s, or we can play modern day, and or even close to modern, like what's the Confederacy of Dunces, right? Where you're in the 1980s and crazy characters or whatever. But whatever period we pick, we should be somewhat comfortable with the period because we're going to have to pull in themes to talk about it. So if you don't know anything about Great Depression, Louisiana, maybe that's not the place to go. Or it might be just anywhere America, but this is the time frame I want to deal with. Like I want to be in 1950s suburban. Or I want to play Great Gatsby, so we'll be in Long Island in the 1920s. Or I want to play something that has never been written. That's an interesting thing. Like, can we talk about what Gold Rush, California, things like that. So this is all on you. I don't really care. I like to play them all. What do you think? We can do a voting system if it comes down to it, but usually this part of the game is just discussion.
So the first thing that sprang to my mind was like Manhattan Project, like Los Alamos, New Mexico.
Wow.
I've been thinking about a Sam Spade, Philip Marlowe, hard-boiled 30s detective on the West Coast.
Guess I should put a column for setting.
I was actually thinking about like 1930s Las Vegas, but that might be too close to Godfather, depending on how it plays.
Yeah.
I really like the like hard-boiled
Mhm.
detective thing. That could be kind of interesting.
I do love hard-boiled detectives as well.
Like LA Confidential kind of.
Yeah, Maltese Falcon, Chinatown even. It'd
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
so those are all different flavor. The movies are made in different eras, but the theme was definitely the same in each one, or the
Mhm.
setting rather. So
Mhm.
another idea is maybe like a Nathaniel Hawthorne, Scarlet Letter style American Gothic, in the Northeast, perhaps.
I always love those too.
Mhm.
There's a little trickier at 9 o'clock in the morning for me, but a
Yeah, that's
little
for
bit
sure.
of research might be necessary to get the whole anti-Puritan thing. But
It's 9:30. It's almost lunchtime. What do you think?
I start my day late, man. I don't know about you.
Wow, I'm okay with all of those. Does anything jump out? I mean, noir sort of seems like a theme. I mean, 1930s Vegas would be noir.
Mhm.
Manhattan Project, I mean, that was close to Vegas. They used to sit at the casinos, used to, have atomic bomb viewings.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, they would sit down and watch, and it was a whole attraction, and they would advertise, and that's why you have the Stardust Hotel. And
Wow. Sweet.
I digress. I mean, we could do 1940s LA noir.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I think we could also tie in a little bit of this Vegas theme. Um, everyone had cars in that era, and a trip to the desert might come into play.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Okay, so 1940s noir. Let me think. Okay, so now my job. This is the hard part for me. Is now I need to decide what the setting conflicts are. So I'm going to. These are conflicts that are going to be in play for the whole game, and you'll be able to use these conflicts throughout play, but they're going to be. But then you can't use them again until the next chapter. So these are sort of permanent conflicts that are always going to be present. So if we're talking about noir, I think, oh boy, I might think on this and then add it later after you guys have. Let's get back on my. There I am. Hi. After we get, I'm going to think about this, and while you guys are trying to work out your archetypes, I will have an answer. A little tricky. Okay, so while I'm thinking about that, let's go ahead and think about what archetypes you want to play. They're all in the folder, and it's best if you. There's a lot of them, so you don't have to play the same one. It's best if you don't. And once you have an archetype, we'll go into the process of building out that character, which won't take very long because it's about choosing personality traits, basically.
Mhm.
So okay, we'll go ahead and do that. And I will think about the setting conflicts. And if you have any questions about any of those archetypes, let me know.
So if we're going hard-boiled, I feel like the courageous youth is a rookie. Like that's like the rookie cop, maybe.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of interesting. Because originally when I looked at this, I was like, courageous youth. That could totally be like a teen who's out doing stuff. But depending on the setting, it's going to change, I think. So.
Yeah. Well, Sonny Corleone in our game was a courageous youth, I believe. I can't remember.
Am I just drawn to that archetype?
I'm leaning towards the regretful soldier. maybe somebody that was wounded and sent home, and now they're trying to make their way and follow the American dream sort of deal.
Where's my flying car?
I was more like thinking like, hey, there's a whole bunch of land, but near here in the desert that we could develop into our own little town. You know, I don't know.
Oh, what if it's like a land deal held up by a murder? So then you have like the developer dealing with the hard-boiled detectives. Sorry. Okay.
I like it.
I like it.
I'm leaning towards either the mysterious recluse or the wounded socialite.
Those are both Gatsby archetypes.
I know. So of course I'm drawn to them.
Awesome.
Back on the conflicts, I'm thinking that we're dealing with detectives and cops. Los Angeles, notoriously corrupt at the time. So one of our setting conflicts is going to be corruption in the force, in the police force.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to tie in Vegas, I think I might do a more broadly notated conflict, something like I wanted to call it growing pains, but Los Angeles was expanding a lot in the 40s, and the Hollywood and the military and all these other things were coming in, and then Vegas obviously was part of that expansion. So I think I'm going to call it West Coast growing pains.
Nice.
There's probably a better way to put it, but I think you know what I mean. I'm going to try to find a better way to put that. Let's see. It doesn't sound very dramatic.
Maybe something about expansion?
Or maybe West Coast boom.
Perfect.
Let's do that.
Fits with that whole Manhattan Project thing.
So is there a specific year we're looking at? Is the war still going on? Is this pre-45?
I'm always comfortable in post-war because I wrote a novel about that era, so I'm going to refrain. You guys decide.
Katie, what do you think?
Oh geez, I love the 40s. So any time. I probably would say just after the war ended, because that means I think there's a higher level of conflict with people, the men coming home from war and how that kind of changed the way society was functioning right after everyone came home. So I think that adds more tension and conflict to the time, like right after the war ends.
True, because like all the women are getting put back into the home as opposed to being out in the workforce and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Rosie the Riveter is being sent back home instead of, still on the line kind of thing. So, yeah.
So 1946. That was the year of The Godfather,
Well, to be honest, it was a pretty rich period for lit. So post-war is a great time for lit. So you can't go wrong with it.
We could make it 1947. That's Roswell.
Well, the whole 12 months distinction there. Yeah.
Oh boy.
I mean, you could add in something about themes with, is it aliens? Is it a murder? Is it just a cover up? Who's covering it up? Is it the military covering it up?
Awesome. All right, 1947. I said SoCal, but really we're kind of bridging it. If it sounds like this is more of an Odyssey than an Iliad, meaning we're going to be probably going between different locations. So I'll just do SoCal, Southwest. Okay, do we have archetypes?
Yeah, I'm going to try to play against my recent trend. So I'll go for the Oathsworn Champion.
All right. Was that because I called you out?
It's been a trend. So I need to widen my range a little bit, apparently. So
Yeah, Gene's characters have been a little psychopathic lately.
yeah,
We're not judging and just observing. Just observing.
it happened again on Thursday. So
Or sociopathic, not always psychopathic.
I will be going the wounded socialite.
Okay.
I'm taking the regretful soldier.
And oh man, I kind of is anyone planning on being? Like, is anyone going to be the detective?
I think you should be the detective.
I should be the detective.
I second that.
Because I could play that as the courageous youth or the like honorable guardian, or you know what? I'm just better at being like a young hothead, so I'll be the courageous youth.
Yeah.
I'm more used to
Know your strengths, you know.
Yeah. We're recording this. Might as well go with my strengths.
All right, so just to show. All right, so we have courageous youth, Kurt. The Oathsworn champion, Gene. The regretful soldier, Win. The wounded socialite, Katie. And I'm just sharing the screen so that... Oh, did I actually remember? I didn't actually share the screen. Oh, I did. Okay, good. Technology seems to be working. I just wanted to show what those look like. Cool. All right, so you'll see on your spreadsheet and also on the character sheet, there is a section for trait for your stats. The three stats in this game are instinct, personality, and morality. So you haven't, you'll notice there is no strength or constitution. This is a story about your motivations. So these are really based on the traditional psychological ego, superego kind of model. Instinct is just what you do without any consideration of either yourself or other people. It's just what you do. So these are going to be moves that things like satiate, which is a flat move we'll be using a lot, and that's just I'm going to take care of a need that I have immediately, and I'm going to do it without thinking. That's instinct. Personality isn't necessarily about, it's not like charisma. You're not really talking about your personality, although that does figure in. This is really about your understanding of your environment, your understanding of what you can get from other people. So this is sort of what you can do for like a persuasion if you're trying to persuade somebody to do something, or you understand your role in this. Like if you're a detective, your personality would be tied into what your job is, what your dharma is, and your duty. Morality is a little different, though. That's more about your connection with society and other people. So things like religion certainly play into that, but also ideas about the greater good, altruism, and then on the other end, sociopathy. So those are what those three traits are. Now, each one of your characters have suggested archetypes, basically, where you can pick from one of three things to decide where your traits go, and that will sort of embody a certain style. So like the courageous youth, for example, you could be a trusty sidekick, which is a little different than a rapscallion. And you'll find other people have the same trait mix, but the reason yours is like this is because that's sort of the personality you're displaying. So go ahead and take a moment to choose your stats, and then next thing we'll pick is your personality trait. So once you have that, give me a thumbs up. All right.
So for the personality traits, we just pick a key trait, a rising trait, and a falling trait?
Yep. So personality describes, you're going to pick one of them, which is what your primary trait is when you're in that state. So the key trait is you're that way most of the time. That's your key personality. Sincere. You are a sincere person. You don't lie. You are your authentic self, right? But when you're rising, you might take on another trait. Like when you're rising, you might be brave. When you're falling, you might be manipulative. So you just pick one of those, and those aren't mechanical. They're just sort of, that's how your character behaves when they are rising, falling, and in general. I'm going to share the screen so other people can see what you're doing. You're like, thank you, Chris, because this is boring. All right, here we go. So, so Kurt has picked observant, but when rising, his character is independent. When falling, manipulative.
I kind of figure as a detective, observance probably a good all the time trait. And then if I think I can get away with it, I'm probably going to go out and do stuff I shouldn't. And then if I get into trouble, I'm going to try to talk my way out of it.
It's at this point that you really should give some thought to who your character actually is. Think about a name, what their job is. You kind of know their personality, because the next thing we're going to have to decide is what your motivation is. A character's motivation changes with every chapter in the game, and there are 6. So while you don't really know what we're going to start off with, so your motivation should be sort of general. You'll see that your character has prompts under motivation. So your basic motivation is generally what you always want. So what you'll do is you'll apply that to whatever situation you're in. And in the beginning, it's like, well, okay, you can just use your basic motivation unless you want to fine tune it. You also have a basic desire and fear. Those are just things you always sort of want, and all the things you're sort of afraid of. And those 3 statements should help you define what your motivation is on every chapter. So if you know you're a cop, and you know that you're trying to prove your worth, what does that mean in the context of the game? You know, I need to book that guy, right? I need to close this case. That might be a motivation. I'll pick on someone else here. Who else is in here? Yeah. All right, so looking at the Oathsworn Champion, your basic motivation is self-reliance. So do you have an idea of what... We all know Kurt's probably playing a cop.
I think I will also be a cop. I think I might be Kurt's partner.
Nice.
That's one possibility. I could also be someone who's ousted out of the force, and maybe because he's too principled to stay in the force. So, but I kind of view it as either a lawman or an ex-lawman. So already I'm seeing some kind of relationship with Kurt's character. Maybe even maybe a conflict to start off with, but.
Yeah, what we're going to do is once we know who your characters are, we're going to decide what your who your protagonists and antagonists are. So yeah, this is the hard part. You have to decide kind of what you're going to play at this point.
So is your thought that we should be filling in some motivation at this point?
Thinking about motivation, ultimately, yeah, you're going to need to write down what your motivation is. But it'll help to know what everybody else is doing. So Katie, what are you thinking?
I have to mute myself. So I'm thinking that my wounded socialite is going to be the daughter of like old money, but daddy died, and so all the money is like in probate or something, and so I don't have access to any of the money or riches or funds or anything that I'm used to. And because of that, I've kind of been shunned by maybe the old money around me. And so now I'm bored because I'm not getting invited to parties. I'm not being included in things. And so now I'm going to, I don't know, try to get involved in things that are going on around the city to keep myself entertained until the money comes back.
Okay, so you're on the civilian side of things.
Yes.
The regretful soldier. Ooh, angry. That's the first thing I saw.
Yeah. So his name is Dean Wright. He was a soldier in the war, but he got wounded and sent home early, and doesn't really feel like, he got the chance to prove himself. And is regretful about that, but also coming home and having trouble finding work and finding something that, proves that he is a capable member of society. So he's got this grand plan that he's going to make or help this development of houses happen in the desert, where there is like very little infrastructure and whatever. So it's this huge idea. But I think that's going to be a big problem. So I think he's motivated to operate kind of outside the typical framework of society, because that is not working for him right now.
Okay. All right. Does that help everybody figure out what you might want your opening motivation to be?
Yeah, I might actually change mine. If Kurt is definitely going to be the cop, I think I should switch to a journalist. So I think my character is actually a journalist looking for the big story and really wants to write novels instead. So this is a means to an end. So
All right. Do you have a name yet?
no. That's extra, man. So I'll have it figured out.
Is there nowhere on the sheet to put your name?
Apparently not. Now that I'm looking at the sheet, you can use the top, where I guess the game name is.
Okay. Also, my motivation is to reject and serve.
To reject who and serve what?
The corruption, and to serve the people.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody that would be against that motivation? Or does that conflict with anybody else's motivation?
To reject corruption and serve the people.
Probably not. Is there anyone that is after the same kind of thing?
Like it.
All right, so you don't have any protagonists or antagonists at this point. We can ask some leading questions, but I don't want to spend too much time. You can also just unilaterally say, actually, you know what? That gets in the way of something that I want. All right, so we have Dean Wright. Oh, yeah, with a W. Okay.
You can call me Mr. Wright if you want. It's fine.
Betty Sinclair. It's actually a Scottish name, but Normish. The highbrow Scots.
I'm gonna go with Jack Brightstone. Betty is the wounded socialite, right?
Yeah. Jack Brightstone. There's so many archetypes, it's actually hard to switch between them.
I guess you could drag the sheets around so that the active players are towards the front.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Wally Walker. Sworn champion. All right, and while I'm organizing this a bit, go ahead and discuss out your character's motivations and whether or not anybody would be. First of all, there's two parts to this. Firstly, do you know each other? And secondly, are your motivations in conflict or not? So do you want to start off, Wynn, while I'm organizing?
Yeah, so Katie, since you come from old money and potentially have money or money coming soon, I feel like maybe there is some kind of connection there, whether it's mechanical or not, where either I'm hoping the money comes through to help finance the project. Is that something that would work for you?
Yeah, that sounds great. And I think I keep promising like, oh, eventually we're going to get that money for that project.
Yeah.
Like, oh
But
yeah,
like,
that's definitely going to happen.
all right. Yeah. But there's this whole time pressure thing where I'm like, but we need the money now. And you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. We'll get it. We'll get it. Of course. Yeah, we'll get there.
That's perfect. I love that. So like
Yeah.
maybe I'm like mortgaging my parents' house to throw these parties to get more investors, and you're like loving that.
Right. Yeah. I'm always showing up for the party, and you're
Mhm.
like, yeah, and we've got her family's, the Sinclair's investment. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, of course. Because money has never meant anything to me. I've never had to worry about it. So yeah, you're definitely mortgaging the farm. And I'm like, yeah, of course, whatever. Sure, it'll get there eventually.
So do we think that's a protagonist relationship or just a pre-existing, like knowing each other and planning to work together kind of thing?
Yeah, it sounds like you're protagonists with each other.
Yeah, I would say we're protagonists to each other.
And that might change if if things don't get better.
Yep.
Oops, I had this backwards. Well, that's not Wynn. That's Katie.
So I'm curious how Wally feels about the corruption in the force.
Gene, you're on mute. Gene?
Yes.
You're on mute.
Yeah, Dad. I think corruption is what it is. It's kind of an accepted thing. It kind of, I think that he might be following Jack as a potential story because he's new and maybe from out of town. I don't know. He might be an Angelino or from the area.
I'm thinking Jack, because this is after the war. I think Jack went to basic and never actually got deployed.
Okay.
Like he joined too late. So he's this young guy who like got out of basic and never got to use any of the stuff they built him up for. And so he's just like full of like righteousness and vinegar and like ready to take on the force.
Nice. Is it because you were so young that you couldn't sign up sooner?
Yeah, I think he probably like, you show up and try to sign up and they're like, no, you're 16, go home. Like, go home. And then he finally gets signed up and gets into basic, and then the war ends before he gets deployed and he gets sent home. And
so he is pretty young. So at the most he'd be 22 or 23.
Yeah, he's probably like 22.
Are we going to be in Los Angeles, or are we? It sounds like we might be in a town or a city, sort of like on the way to Vegas.
Baker,
Also,
California.
Yeah. How far did county go? Like, what did the LA sheriffs cover back in the fort? I don't know how far the sheriffs went back then. Because I kind of want, like, I definitely want him to have jurisdiction wherever we are, but it doesn't need to be like the LA Police Department.
I think in that stretch of area between LA and Las Vegas, there's another county sheriff. However, if you're a federal marshal, you will have jurisdiction no matter where you go in California or Vegas. So that might be a way to go with your character.
Yeah.
Well, the county goes all the way up to Lancaster,
Okay.
almost to San Bernardino.
Yeah, it's a pretty big area. But you could also, I mean, that could also be an interesting conflict of whether you have jurisdiction in this area. You might go up against a local lawman who might be in someone's pocket.
Right.
But you would definitely get that if you're a federal marshal as well, or, you know, FBI. So, if you went in that direction, yeah, you definitely, the locals never liked the feds, so.
I'm also okay. I actually like the conflict if there is like jurisdiction problems. Like maybe the investigation starts in LA and carries over into this development thing and into Vegas and all this stuff. And there's this cop who has no jurisdiction who's just mucking around in other people's areas because he wants to find out the truth.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think
like a Beverly Hills Cop scenario.
Yeah.
I think it might start in LA because the socialite, you know, it makes sense that she would be in a city. So it might start in LA, but quickly it sounds like the action might be outside of town. So I think that's a good way to go.
All right. Are there any other protagonist antagonists? We have at least one set of protagonists. It's okay if we start out neutral with everybody else and you discover as it goes on.
So, Wally, you said you're a reporter? Gene?
All right. I'm on mute like most of the time. All right. The answer is
like,
yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm wondering if maybe to me you're an antagonist, like maybe you've written some
yes
stories about either me or my family or something in general that's kind of smeared the Sinclair name.
Yes, that's the whole reason why your the will can be executed. There's all kinds of questions that maybe I didn't write, but certainly contributed to an article that kind of messed up the family name.
Okay.
And, or maybe if your rep is something that you want to keep intact for now, we could say the probate judge was corrupt, and we reveal them, and that it's causing the holdup with the money.
Okay.
So that might be another reason. Well, I'm not sure if.
Which way do you want to go with it? Is it you or is it the judge?
I think it's both. So we can nail it down, the details when we go.
Okay.
But we can keep that antagonistic thing. I'm not sure if Dean would be involved or would even know me at this point. I'm not sure. That really depends on how much Betty has told Dean about her issues. So.
Right.
Yeah, but I think my character is definitely trying to latch on to Jack as like a potential big story. So he views him as a protagonist.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put Wally as a protagonist because I think I feed you information when something gets covered up.
Do you think that I might have helped break your career a little bit? Like there was a smaller case or another case that I publicized and kind of made you famous locally?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
Sort of self-serving.
Yeah. Maybe you don't view it that way, but it definitely there's definitely been a symbiotic thing.
I was thinking that maybe Jack and I went to high school together. Like we've got like a history of knowing each other. We're both the same age. We went to the same high school. I was probably like the rich bitchy girl at the high school.
Oh man, you weren't a poet?
No, I was not a poet laureate at this high school. No slam poetry for this character.
Sorry, inside joke.
What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, that's fine with me. Maybe I'm trying to figure out why Jack would be at a prep school. Because if you were like old money, then wouldn't you be at a prep school, or were you at?
Well, in LA, you could go to Hollywood High, and that would be mixing like movie star kids with East LA kids, basically. You can get the
Right.
mix in LA.
Or even Los Angeles High.
Yeah.
Because it's okay, yeah, let's do that. So we went to high school together. We're the same age? Is that what
Yeah.
you said? Okay.
It's like 22, right?
And you were, oh man, do I want to make you an antagonist then?
Of
Yeah.
course you do.
Or
Yeah.
or were you Jughead to my Betty?
Oh my god, I love Riverdale so much. Well, okay.
Well, here's another question. Have you met since high school?
Oh yeah, because I like those
You're-
old.
Your character might have
Probably.
changed a bunch in the Warriors. So
Yeah.
Betty might think of Jack as the Jughead, but he's come out a completely different way. Even
Yeah.
if he
Right,
did
exactly.
Yeah, I think I'm different now when we meet back up.
So then there's no protagonist or antagonist.
Yeah, I'm just gonna check that.
Okay.
Wynn, you were gonna say something, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask Wally. So I think maybe we don't know each other yet, but it's a connection that I want to forge because I feel like you could publicize the project. So I'm motivated to meet you and earn your favor. Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, I like it. So what actually is the project?
So I think it's a housing project that's on the outskirts of town, or probably just over the county line, or whatever. And I don't know that I'm necessarily leading the project, but I have taken like a sense of ownership of the project, and I am financially leveraged in it.
So do you think you sent Wally letters? We'll say he works for the Herald, and you sent letters to the Herald, and it's gotten to his desk. So he at least knows the name, but has never actually met your character. I think that
Right.
works.
And I'm like inviting you to come to some of these parties and glad hand and meet investors and hear the good story about Palomino Park.
Okay, cool. I like it.
It could be sort of where Santa Clarita is, which according to the internet didn't get established until 1987.
Okay.
Just sort of in the boonies. Then it would have been
Yeah.
on the way to Palmdale.
I don't know anything about California, so you guys are just going to hear me smile and nod a lot.
It's like what Aurora was in the 50s.
Got it.
Palmdale was there, though.
Yeah, I think though once you get out of the city, you can kind of just make up counties, towns, whatever in the desert, and no one will.
We have to be accurate. No, we don't. We don't.
100% accuracy only.
Those Palominos. Wait, what did you say? I like that.
Palomino Park?
But
Palomino Park.
I also like Los Palominos. LA has this big history of Anglican. I don't even know how to say it. Of mainstreaming Spanish ranch.
Like
Yeah.
Anglophile.
Yeah,
Anglicizing, I think.
yeah, Anglicized.
Yeah.
That's.
I made that.
that's right.
That might not be a word.
Los Palominos. Yep.
Yeah, that's perfect. Los Palominos it is.
All right. So, Jack, did you decide if you're a G-man or what are you?
Man,
Marshal?
It's all within the county. You can be in the
I
county.
think I want to be county sheriff.
Okay, cool.
That way I can end up out of my jurisdiction, because I think that'll be a nice point of tension.
An elected county sheriff of Los Angeles County.
Well, what's the equivalent of a detective in the sheriff's department?
They'd have a homicide division.
I don't think I'm the sheriff.
You could be a deputy.
Yeah, probably a deputy. I know less about sheriff ranks.
Yeah. All right, so you could be a deputy. There's probably a it doesn't matter. We don't have to get wrapped up in that.
That's okay. I am not the sheriff, but I am.
You are the deputy.
Yeah.
We can say you're an investigator, so
Yeah.
and that covers a lot.
County investigator.
County investigator. Just go with that. I know there's going to be. We could probably do an entire game just on a sheriff's department. But okay, cool. Any other relationships we want to bring up? We know that there is a land deal going on outside of Los Angeles in the desert. We know that there's going to be some sort of crime requiring an investigation. And we know that it's probably involving this land deal. Anything else we want to throw in the pot before we go?
Yeah, there should be an election. There should be something in the background, like bigger than the local investigations. So there either some kind of legislation going through or some
No,
tax.
the sheriff could be going through an election.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Oh, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm going to add these as conflicts.
Does Jack know Dean? You were in the war, right?
Yeah. So it could be. I could have been like a pencil pusher at the place that you did basic, like after I got wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if we know each other well. What do you think?
Maybe it's one of those you saw service, so I look up to you.
Mhm.
Like you fought, so
Yeah.
you're a little idolized there.
Yeah.
But just
Maybe-
passing information of each other.
Maybe you met at the VA shortly after the war.
Oh,
I mean, you guys are in the local area at this point, so you met at the VA. That way, or you can have met during the war. But if neither of you, if you didn't see action, Jack, then you would have been limited to like a stateside deployment. So,
mhm.
but we could just kind of like you can just kinda, you don't have to really get in nitty gritty and say, hey, we're war buddies, and that might be it.
I feel like it's a more one-sided relationship potentially, where like Jack looks up to Dean,
Mhm.
but Dean's all like, "Kid, you don't even know what you're talking about."
Mhm.
How old is Dean then?
Clearly I'm the old man of the bunch, so maybe I'm like 27 or something.
Oh my God.
I have no idea how old Wally is, but with the rest of you being 22.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Wally's in his mid-30s.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what Chris was like in his 30s, so I'm trying to play that character.
Oh, you don't want to play that character. Trust me.
All right, I'm gonna mark Dean as a protagonist.
Okay.
Probably that's one-sided again, same as Wally.
Okay.
All right, so our three setting conflicts then are corruption in the force, LA County Sheriff election, and Los Palominos. Should be Los Palominos deal. You also, before we get started, you will get a plot point. You see it at the top here. You can just punch in one to get one plot point. This is your currency to take control of the story. And you can earn more of them by choosing... Well, let me back up before we get to plot points. Your character is going to start off flat on their arc, which means you're not rising and you're not falling. And you can use any of these flat moves. Now, it's a little different than if you're familiar with Powered by the Apocalypse. And those of you that have played this game before, it's a little different. There have been some changes. If you make a move, you have got to confront a conflict. And if you don't have any conflicts to confront, you will need to make one. or you can't make the move. So starting off, and actually throughout the entire game, you can always use flat moves. But you can only use rising moves if you're rising, and you can only use falling moves if you're falling. You can earn new plot points by switching your arc from rising to falling or from falling to rising. So you could choose to lash out even if you're rising, but that means you're now falling. And you get a plot point for doing that, because this game likes it when you do that. You can spend plot points by... you can also, in like Fate, if you played Fate, there's a mechanic that will allow me to compel you to do something that might complicate things for your character. That's another way you can earn plot points. You can spend them by creating a conflict so that you can make a move, re-roll a move. The only way this works, though, is if you are able to tie that into your motivation somehow. So, like, okay, I need to satiate. In other words, I need to get away from this person that's getting in front of me at my face, and I need to stop this antagonistic behavior. And you fail that roll. So to re-roll it, you can spend a plot point, but that has to tie into your motivations. Like, I have war trauma, so I don't really want to be a part of this, and that's when you can re-roll. Or you can also use it just to take narrative control and say, I want this in the story, I want this NPC, I want to create this reality or this truth. So those are plot points. You start off with one. And that's all the prep we need. We can start playing. So unless we have some questions, why don't we take a quick break? I'm going to take some notes, and then we'll get started.
All right. So like 2-3 minutes or 5 to 10?
Let's do 2-3 minutes.
All right.
Bio break.
Cool.
All right, thanks.
The audio picked me up chewing. Sorry.
Fix it in post.
There is no post.
What? You need to have the nice bumpers at the beginning and end of the video, and
I can add those, I think. Maybe.
the soothing music. So I like where this is going.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
This is a really good genre to play around in.
Yeah, it's how I prefer to play Great American Novel, but it's hard. It's such a hard pitch that I've been going. I've been going forward with a setting, as a pitch. But whenever I do it this way, it always comes up with a really interesting scenario.
I would like to see a very period attempt, like another good genre for the genre or style would be a Western.
Yeah.
This whole story that we just wrapped could be a Western.
Yeah.
And that's generally true of the genre itself. So if it could totally work the same way. We just have horses and trains.
Yeah, I played a Western before. It was actually one of the settings. It was at Crit Hit, and the whole game took place in Cheyenne on their way through. And it ended with the hanging and stuff, but that wasn't the point. It's sort of, it was good. It was a redemption story, actually.
A railroad expansion story would be pretty good too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
But we've already decided.
Next time.
If only this conversation had happened an hour ago.
Yep, we're in it to win it. All right.
No, I'm really excited about this. I think we've got something cool here. So.
I agree.
All right, we are going to start in chapter 1, which is the ordinary world. If you know your hero's journey, you'll know what that means. This is just everyday life. This is you living. And when a character, doesn't matter which one, moves into an uncomfortable situation, then we go on to chapter 2. And so the beginning here is just you are comfortable, you are you, and then something's going to happen to instigate you into doing something uncomfortable. And then when you make a successful move when confronting a conflict that puts your character into an uncomfortable situation and you resolve the conflict, we go on to chapter 2. And so that's how it's structured. So this is a moment now to go ahead and just introduce your character, what your character is doing at the moment, and give us a picture of who you are. So let's just go around the table. Win?
Perfect. Is this like a vignette where there's no role playing?
It's up to you. But yeah, that's sort of what I had in mind, just to introduce the table to your concept.
Fantastic. Okay. So you see Dean Wright, and he's in an old rumpled suit, and he's got paperwork from the bank, and he's at his parents' kitchen table, and he's talking with his mom and his dad about Los Palominos and this land deal. And it's going to be the thing, the wave of the future, the way that he proves himself, and he's going to set them up for life. And he says, all you have to do is sign this paperwork, mortgaging the house, and we'll get the money back tenfold. And he's dropping Betty Sinclair's name and said the Sinclairs are involved. There's no possible way this could fail. And reluctantly they look at each other, pick up the pen, and sign the paperwork for him to take it to the bank.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I mean, great. That's awesome. Wonderful.
True story.
Okay. All right, Jack.
So I think we see Jack busting into the sheriff's office with some paperwork in his hand. And he's like, damn it, Keller. Are you telling me another case got transferred to the PD? And he's just like chewing him out. But ultimately, like, you see the sheriff's like, again, great. Here we go. And he's like, screaming and throwing the paperwork everywhere, and ultimately like this scene ends with him like leaving the office dejected, like it's just not going to happen, and like going back to his desk and pulling out like the next file, like this one's going to be different.
Is Keller the sheriff?
Yeah.
All right, and getting the names right, Betty.
Unmute. There we go. All right. So I think we see Betty sitting in her probably penthouse apartment, sipping some coffee and looking through like invitations to various parties she's been invited to. And she kind of stops on the invitation to the fundraising gala that Dean has been setting up for fundraising for the project. And Betty's kind of looking at it and like, oh, of course I have to go to this party. And then she'll pick up like a letter from the bank saying like, this is how much you've spent this much. This is how much you have left. And it's the amount is like, I spent a lot of money and I have very little left in the account kind of thing. That's kind of how we see Betty. And then she's just kind of like, well, I mean, the money will come in, and just goes back to sipping her coffee, very la-ti-da about everything.
All right, and Wally?
Wally is at the Brown Derby on Vine. He is working his way through a pack of cigarettes and an old fashioned, and it's still 10 in the morning. And he is basically casing a Hollywood starlet. This is terrible work, but he's doing work for the gossip column. So he's tailing a starlet and following her through. And he's super bored, and he decides to look through his mail, and he picks through and finds something interesting from Los Palominos. So he opens it and starts reading.
All right. Well, on a Friday morning, a secretary that worked for the Carter and Associates real estate company found the dead body of William Carter sitting in his chair in his office, shot in the head with a .22. So the Los Angeles Police Department was brought in to investigate, and that file that that Jack picked up is yesterday's report from the investigators on that scene. The name comes up because Carter is not a William Carter, while his office is in Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles. He lives in Palmdale and does all of his real estate deals out there. So it comes up that as an auxiliary report that one of his associates was also murdered at the same day in Palmdale. So that sort of opens up Jack's day. There is some strange things going on. You know, that Los Palominos was one of the reasons he was in LA. They're trying to build investment around establishing this, and all of the familiar names come up, including the Sinclairs. But also, there's this weird person that's been involved too on the that just invested. I don't know, how much was that house worth, Dean?
Oh gosh, $50,000.
Yeah, $50,000 came in from somebody that has no experience in the real estate market, and that money was just dropped right before the murders. So this is how your day starts. What do you do now?
I gotta unmute first. So, well, I think he starts by going out to the scene, of the murder that he does have jurisdiction on. So he'll be going out to Palmdale. Who's the guy that got murdered in Palmdale?
Oh, that was his associate. Palmdale is actually not in your jurisdiction. It was William Carter in L.A. That was in your
That's
jurisdiction.
my jurisdiction. So I'll go to I'll be going to the scene of Carter's murder to see what I can pick up. Go look at some chalk outlines.
Yeah. So the gossip column has been submitted, and so you could probably move on to something more interesting, Waldy, like this murder that just happened in downtown from some big commercial real estate developer.
Okay. So I phone in my story. I told Gladys, hey, I'm going to look into this lead that I picked up. Apparently, there's something going on out of town. Forward my calls. I'll be at the Sound Asleep Motel. And by the way, I'll need an advance, maybe, I don't know, $50. I'll pick it up on the way out.
And Gladys says, Roger's not going to want this. So he's on the story about Betty Sinclair spending all of her daddy's money. And
that's small-time stuff. I need to get where the action is. Also, if you can call the sheriff's office, write a message to to Jack. Jack. He's on my call list. Tell him that I'll meet him out there, and he can find me at the motel.
Okay.
Oh, and I owe you for last week, but I haven't forgotten it. I'll send something, flowers maybe. What do you like? It doesn't matter. I'll get back to you.
Wally, I like tulip.
No, I gotta go.
Tulips. All right, and so Gladys is going to process the check. You'll have to stop by the office to pick it up.
Yeah, I'll do it on the way out of town, and I will definitely keep the car running, run right past the editor, who is probably jumping out of his desk as soon as he sees me, and I just do that whole thing, I'm like, yeah.
But that's when Roger stops your path as you're trying to leave. And he's sort of, gray around the temples, probably played a role in the Spider-Man movie, as the newspaper guy and with the mustache. And he just has his arms crossed.
Oh, Mr. Black. Hi. You're looking good. Bright, early.
Did you get the memo about Sinclair and all of the money she's blowing all over Hollywood?
Yeah, to be honest, you need to send one of the young hens after that one. One of the young roosters. Smith is good. He's just out of high school. He's looking for a big lead. This is a big break for him. So, he would be glad to handle that story. I have some bigger things going on, Roger. This is a big deal. I kind of weighed the letter that I received. This could be, front page material. Also, I need $50.
Yeah, I know you asked for that.
Trust me,
okay.
This is going to be great. If it's not great, then I swear I'll spend the next 6 months following whoever you want me to follow. But this will be good.
Let's see how this goes, Walker. You're on thin ice.
I love you, man.
That's your pass. All right. So just to get some geography down, the murder happened in downtown Los Angeles, and also there was one in Palmdale. So the Bridestone's going to the LA place, right? Where was Wally going? Also downtown?
He's planning to go to Palmdale, but I think what the idea is that Gladys called the sheriff's office, and if she finds out that he's in that Jack is going to be at the murder scene in LA, he'll head straight there on the way out.
Okay. Now, let's go over to Betty for a moment.
All of these sirens are just giving me such a headache.
Well, you had a 10 o'clock with Mr. Carter at the NBC Suites downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Just a cab ride away. But you haven't. You haven't seen him before that, so I guess this is your time to go to that appointment.
Right. I definitely want to be on time, which I'm never on time to anything. So yeah, it's probably 10:15, and I step out of my cab for my 10 o'clock meeting. And there's cop cars everywhere and barricades set up to the building. And I would walk up to one of the uniforms and I have a meeting in this building.
I'm sorry, miss. This is a crime scene. You'll have to wait outside.
Oh, no. I have a meeting here.
I'm sorry, miss. This is a crime scene. You're going to have to wait outside. Thank you.
No. I understand that, but I'm sure your crime scene and my meeting aren't in the same place.
Lady, look, we got a job to do here, okay? Can you move along, please?
Do you know who I am?
I don't know. Eleanor Roosevelt. Oh, is that too late?
Can Jack come in and say, that's Betty Sinclair?
Yeah, you can do that.
So I think he's pulling up, right? And so you get this, when she says, do you know who I am? Jack comes up behind. He goes, that's Betty Sinclair.
I would spin around and I'd kind of look you up and down, probably not immediately recognize you.
So he's standing there crossed arms. How you doing, Betty?
Jack.
Yeah.
Well, look at you.
You got a meeting in this building?
I do, and these gentlemen won't get out of my way.
Oh, well, I'm sure your meeting has nothing to do with this crime scene. Who are you here to meet?
That's between me and my business associate.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, if you want to get in there, you're going to have to tell me who you're here to meet.
Well, I'm here to see Mr. Carter.
Yeah, good luck with that, lady.
He sort of laughs and he's like, whoa, hey.
What do you mean by that?
Why don't you come with me? I'm probably going to have a few questions about this meeting.
I am already late for my meeting. If you could just kindly move aside your little barricades and let me in, that'd be great.
Well, I'm sure that no one is going to be more late for this meeting than Mr. Carter.
That's a good one, Chief.
I don't like your attitude, Jack.
All right, Betty. Is that how you want to do it? That's fine. Look, your meeting partner, he got his head blown off last night.
I hadn't. Are you sure?
Is this your
Well, it's
shock
not
face?
exactly like that. I mean, really, the bullet blew out the back part of his head. It was only a 22.
Okay, sure. So part of his head.
I think I need to sit down.
Okay, I really appreciate this Oscar-winning performance. But wait, were the Oscars a thing yet?
Yeah.
I really appreciate this performance, but why don't you tell me a little bit about this meet, and then I'll start to move to a quiet area.
At that point, Wally, you can have arrived. Now, I'd like to though move over to Dean. And at this point, I mean, you have just to put in your investment, right?
Oh yeah, like yesterday.
And that's why you're getting a call from the Los Angeles Police Department. Now, where are you?
I guess I'm probably staying with my parents at their house.
Okay, which is that in LA or is that in more rural?
It's probably on the edge of the city. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So your father is the one that comes and says the police there's an investigator from the Los Angeles Police Department calling for you.
Okay, Dad, I'm sure it's nothing. I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Don't worry. Just go sit back on the chair, on the porch. Enjoy your cigar. It's fine.
Dean, if you're wrapped up in something, I need to know.
No, sir, not a thing. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding or a mistake.
Well, you'll tell me what happens when you're done.
Always, of course.
All right.
All right, Pop, go on.
He leaves.
All right. I go to the phone. This is Dean, right?
Yeah, this is Kelly with the Los Angeles Police Department. We need to set up an interview with you within the next 2 hours because of a crime that just unfolded, and nothing to be worried about, but we do need to talk to you at the station as soon as possible.
Okay, may I ask what this is regarding?
I cannot tell you over the phone. I'm not authorized, but let me just say that there is there's a felony at play, and we're just trying to investigate.
All right, that sounds like a pretty big deal. So, yeah, what's the station address? Let me just jot this down, and I'll be right over.
Right, he gives it to you, and it says, and be sure to bring in whatever paperwork that you have that might help us understand your business affairs over the last week or so.
Paperwork like the mortgage on the house?
Yeah, I don't have the details. That's all I've been told.
Wait, is there a problem with the money?
Mr. Wright, I don't have any information. I'm just a clerk, but I was told to tell you to bring in your business dealings over the last couple of weeks.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's fine. I'll be right down. Everything's gonna be okay though, right?
I'm sure the sun will come up tomorrow, and I'm sure President Truman is just fine.
Great. All right. I'll see you soon. Okay, I'm gonna go now. All right.
Very good. Thank you.
Bye-bye. So he scrambles around the house. He's totally frazzled, throws on a sports jacket, grabs some paperwork, runs back, gets more paperwork, goes out to the car. Pop, everything's fine. Yeah, they just, there's something that's going on, but everything's going to be fine. It's just a clerical problem, I'm sure.
Yeah, mid-cigar. I don't think everything's fine, boy. Why do you have all of that paperwork? I know you're taking my car?
Well, yeah, I mean, I need the car just for a little while. But no, that's just sounds like, I don't know. She didn't tell me much. I'm sure it's going to be fine. They said it's no big deal. They just want me to run down.
Okay. I'll
And don't tell Ma anything, okay? Right?
All right, now I'm coming with you.
No. No, you just stay here. You take it easy.
So you want to convince him to stay. He doesn't want to
do.
stay. This is going to be our first roll. So the conflict you're confronting is the Los Palominos deal. Why can I say that? What was it?
Los Palominos.
That's it. All right, thank you. Los Palominos. I got to remember my Spanish pronunciation. The deal's at stake, right?
Yeah.
So that's the conflict you're confronting. Now, if you resolve this conflict, that means we can't use that conflict for the remainder of the chapter.
Okay.
If you can deduce that this is putting your character into an uncomfortable position, that this is an inciting moment, this could be a chapter move. It feels like it might be.
Okay.
So far, because when we look at the scenario, everybody here except for Betty probably is used to this. Betty is probably the only other one at this point that could probably do a chapter move. Okay. So anyway, this is going to be a navigate others, probably.
Okay. Great. So I have a +1 on that. All right. So with the +1, that's an 11.
All right. Great. So if you are rolling against NPC, that means that you have, first of all, you get a +1 arc. Which means you're now rising. This means, though, that you have complete narrative control. You are now the novelist.
Okay.
This is your opportunity to introduce truths that we all have to accept as true. And this is and you play it out however you like. For good or
Okay,
for
great.
ill, it's up to you.
And can I advance the storyline a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, as long as it's related to what you just went through, absolutely. The other thing is this a chapter conflict? In other words, is this situation bringing your character to an uncomfortable situation?
I think so. Because so what happens is Dean goes down to the police station.
Did the father, do you manage to keep your father at home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pop stays at home. He's not going to tell Ma anything about whatever being called down to the police station because, of course, it will be resolved within a few hours and it's going to be fine. So he goes down to the station with the police work or the paperwork, and they tell him that while they know he was there in Mr. Carter's office and that they spoke, but like the money is gone.
Oh,
yeah. And so the $50K that is all the equity in his parents' home is completely missing, and things just got way worse. And he's a suspect as one of the potentially last people who saw Carter.
all right. That's brilliant. So you have +1 arc, which means you now have access to all of the rising moves.
Great.
And you've resolved the conflict that will move us into the next chapter. So all of your protagonists also get +1 arc. Are there any protagonists on board?
Betty is with me.
I am a protagonist.
And your antagonists get -1 arc.
I don't have any antagonists.
Okay. So this means now that we're going into chapter 2.
Okay.
Chapter 2 is, I just need to look it up because there's some specific language. Chapter 2 is called The Call. This is basically the characters in the novel now will be incited to go and deal with the major conflict of the story. We don't know what that is yet. That usually gets uncovered later on in the game. It sort of naturally comes out. But the move that moves us into chapter 3 is when you refute the call. So if there's something that you're supposed to do to deal with what's becoming the big conflict of the story and you refuse to do it, and you need to roll a move to do it, that's when we move into the next chapter. All right, so right now we're in the call. So everything about this chapter is about, rounding up the troops to go and to understand what's actually happening here and what we're dealing with. All right, so you're at the station. This news has been dropped. Now let's go back to the crime scene. Let's go back to Betty and see. We left you hanging there. You've just learned that Mr. Carter. I keep on wanting to call him Dr. Carter because I'm a big ER fan. So if I slip and call him Dr. Carter. Anyway, you just learned that Mr. Carter's been murdered.
Yes.
And you're there with your childhood, not friend, but classmate.
Yeah. Yes.
And he's now a cop is asking you questions. Go.
I don't understand. I mean, I just spoke with Mr. Carter the other day and everything seemed fine and now he's just gone. This is terrifying.
So he flips open his little book and he's like, well, death is sudden that way. Comes at you when you least expect it, I suppose. If you could tell me a little bit about this call you said. What was the point of this call?
By the way, sorry to interject, but Wally, you are there and can hear this if you want to interject yourself in the scene.
All right, I think that you might have seen over your shoulder, Jack, or over Betsy's shoulder. Wally Studebaker just rolled up, and you see him get out of the car, and he spotted Jack immediately with a big smile and starts walking over.
Go ahead.
I definitely have like a handkerchief or something that I'm holding.
Like a
Yeah. Well, we were working on a new housing deal. He's an old friend of my father's, and he was in charge of the new deal, and he wanted me to come over and look at some of the plans that they've been drawing up for the construction. And yeah, it's just very sudden.
So you had no. How well did you know Mr. Carter? Did he have any enemies? Did anyone not want this project to go through that you're talking about?
Well, I mean, I didn't know Mr. Carter very well myself. He was an old friend of Daddy's.
Now this is a moment where you are limited by what your character knows. If you want to introduce truths, you can spend a plot point to do it. Otherwise, you know what you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was friends with Daddy, and I know that he was the real estate company that was handling the Los Palominos deal that I've been working on to be an investor, just waiting for funds to come available. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why anyone would have anything out to get for Mr. Carter.
All right, Betty. Well, I'm sure you're not gonna be able to get up into that office, but I'll let you know as soon as we kind of figure some things out here. If you know, I'll let you know how the investigation.
Hey, Detective Brightstone. Hey,
Hey,
Wally Walker. You know me.
Wally.
Yeah, I had Jack a Presidente cigar. Hey, so what you working on? I
What are
called
you
your
doing
office.
here?
Oh, Miss Sinclair. Funny to run into you here. Last I saw you was at the courthouse, but hey,
Yeah, I know you're an ambulance chaser. I get it.
it's just a job, lady. Really, I'm sorry about what happened. I had no idea that all that was going to shake out that way, but rich people, I'm sure you're going to buy off the judge.
Okay, Wally. All right, all right. I think the girls had a rough enough morning. We don't have to rub it in.
Oh, your family's going to beat the rap. Don't sweat it, lady.
I really think that the police should investigate you when these types of murders happen. I really feel like sometimes you might be creating stories to write on.
Well, that's a very cynical and jaded view for a young lady such as yourself to have. This is a job, and I have to do it. And maybe I won't have to do it forever, hopefully, but maybe with Jack's help here, we can do some good, instead of stuffing our pockets and living up in the hills and mansions, we do work.
Oh, like that really great work you've been doing following around. Which actress is it again that they've got you writing on this week?
Anyway, Jack, big story. Palmdale. I think it's time for a road trip, my friend. I light a cigar.
Palmdale, huh?
Palmdale? What happened in Palmdale?
Ma'am, this is part of an ongoing investigation. I can't disclose any information.
If this has anything to do with my business dealings, it has something to do with me.
And of course, there will be questions when the time is right. If we have any further questions for you, we'll of course bring you into the station.
Wait, something's happening here? What's happening here?
You don't know what's going on here?
I take out my notebook and start writing down everything Jack says.
He looks at you like, really on duty?
Well, I gotta find him where I can find him. So,
So-
Sinclair.
Don't you know you're always on the record with him?
So he puts on his official face, or he like stands up a little straighter, and he's like, "All we know is that there was a shooting at X hundred hours. Mr. Carter was shot in the head and found X number of hours later." Like he just gives like facts, and then he looks at Wally and goes, "Be done."
Was McCluskey from the Times here yet?
Of course, his name is McCluskey.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere. I got to make a call.
Yeah.
I walk maybe 50 paces to a phone booth or a phone box, as it were. So I'm just out of earshot, and you see him animatedly doing this in the phone booth.
On the radio, you hear Terry from the station calling for you, and she says that that Mr. Wright is at the station waiting to be interviewed.
Mr. Wright is
Dean Wright?
Dean.
Oh,
Why
Dean.
did you-
Okay.
Why did you bring Dean Wright into the station? What does he have to do with all of this?
I'm sorry, Betty, but of course I cannot disclose information regarding an ongoing investigation with you, as I have already expressed.
Hey,
He's
Inspector,
my-
maybe you should get the civilians off the scene of the crime, huh?
Yeah.
And that
Listen.
boy in blue keeps walking.
Yeah. Listen, Betty, go home. Don't leave town. I'm gonna have more questions.
Dean's my business partner in this. If you're dragging him in, you're dragging me in.
Scribble. Oh, I'm sorry. You are in business with Dean Wright. What is the nature of this business?
It's all part of the Los Palominos real estate deal that we were in with Sinclair. I mean, with Carter. I'm Sinclair.
What is the level of your involvement in this business dealings?
I've already explained this to you, Jack.
You're just the money then? Okay. All right. Listen, Betty. Off the record, don't get yourself into any more trouble than you already are. Just go home.
Is this the scene where the fedora is kind of down, you know?
Yeah,
Tight, shadowy angle.
he's leaning.
All right.
Jack, you know I'm not one to keep my hands clean.
I think he sort of leans in quieter and he says, "I can't protect you if you get into the system. Not everyone has my sense of justice."
I'm going to call my lawyer.
Like I said, Ms. Sinclair, please, you are at the scene of an active investigation.
Okay, Betty, what's your motivation right now?
I probably am channeling things that Daddy has told me in the past, that you have to take care of your business and you have to take care of your business partners. And so my motivation right now is to solve this problem with money, and I'm going to go get a lawyer and try to save Dean from whatever thing he's wrapped up in.
Okay, so your immediate motivation, is that to get to Dean and to be there for the questioning?
Yes.
Okay, and that is something that
to cover his ass and mine.
all right, and that's something with your lawyer, right?
Right.
And that's something, Jack, that you probably don't want, right? Because now it's become official, it's documented.
Right. As soon as it's official, I can lose control.
Okay, so we are dealing with a conflict here. This is a character-to-character conflict. You can, as a Betty, this can be you against. Sorry, I'm getting the names right, Jack. And it could be about, although I don't know, I don't view it that way because you're just going to do it. It's not like Jack's going to stop you, right? So I think this is really a Jack versus Betty conflict. And that is to convince her to not get any more involved, right? So the conflict is probably, unless you want to create a new one by spending a plot point, the conflict is probably corruption in the Force. That's why you don't want her involved, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So I think this is again navigate others probably.
Yeah.
You could argue for satiate. You're just trying to protect a friend.
Yeah, I need to take care of Betty.
Yeah. All right. So let's do a satiate roll, and you're flat, so there's nothing special about it. Is this refuting the call, or are we just dealing with a regular conflict?
Well, I think I think Jack's like the call would be to bring her in, right? And he's trying to get her to go home.
Yeah, well, refuting the call of the conflict, and we don't really
okay.
know. We don't know really what the overall conflict is, except that something. We should know throughout the narrative that something is pulling your character to do something, but you're refusing to do it. So I'm not sure this describes a conflict like that, but
Right.
let's just do a satiate roll. If you're rolling against a PC, is she an antagonist?
She is no. I have no.
Okay, so it's just a straight roll.
And I got a 5.
All right. That means then,
Just like high school, Betty is not going to do what I say.
yeah. There's no incentive for her to go along with what you say, and that does not resolve the conflict. So that conflict is still open to play. If you were to roll high enough, then she would have gotten a +1 arc for conceding, but still wouldn't have to necessarily. And nothing changes about your arc, right?
Okay. I don't start falling or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
No, it's a different if you're rolling against an NPC. But
okay.
Okay. All right. Great. So she's not going to listen to you.
Yeah. Listen, Betty, I get that you are going to do whatever you want, but I just need you to know that once it's out of my hands, I can't help you. And he turns and walks towards the crime scene.
All right. So Betty, you're getting the lawyer. You're going to go downtown, right?
That is the plan.
What are you doing, Wally?
So Wally gets out of the phone booth. He might have actually heard most of that. So he goes up to Betty and says, "Miss Sinclair, hey, I couldn't help but overhear a little bit between you and Mr. Brightstone. A lawyer would complicate things at this time, and I just happen to have this brand new Studebaker, and I plenty of gas. I was thinking of heading out to Los Palominos."
Why should I trust you?
Well, despite our past differences, you have to admit what I wrote was true. You might not like it, but it was true. So this will give you a chance to get your side of the story on the record, without any police complication. I like Brightstone, but a lot of these guys are on the take. So you can trust the truth if you don't necessarily trust me. And it's only a 45-minute drive. You can always call Daddy.
So you want me to just abandon Dean
No,
in his time of need?
I don't know who this Dean guy is necessarily, but I got this letter. He takes out the letter. I think this might be connected. So I'm not sure if this Dean guy is going to talk unless you're there. So we go on a little trip. Jack could follow along if he decides to, and maybe we scoop Jack on the story.
All right, let's head out there.
Great. I hope you don't mind me smoking.
Hope you don't mind me driving.
I throw her the keys.
So you're not going to go get your lawyer.
Nope.
Are you going to send your lawyer to Dean?
Yep.
Okay. Who's your lawyer?
Wallowitz. Mr. Wallowitz.
I'm running out of space. I didn't give myself enough space.
Yeah, I would go over to the payphone and make a quick call to Wallowitz's office and give him the details and send him over to the police station to Dean.
Okay. So Dean, you've been waiting at the police station, and I don't know. Wait. Well, first of all, Jack, how long are you going to be at that crime scene?
I think the crime scene's already taken care of. I probably just look it over, see if I can find anything that I think the PD wouldn't, and then head back to the station. I probably don't want to keep Dean waiting, since I did get a message that they were there to give statement. Or
Okay, so you've been waiting there probably for about half an hour, and they've kept you comfortable, given you coffee. You're not like in a questioning room. You're sort of on the bench, and you get to see it's an open office. You get to see all the rustle bustle of the station as people are carting papers from desk to desk, and probably some drinking on the job and all of that. But at one point while you're waiting, a kind of an older bald man in a very nice suit comes walking over to you, hat in hand. He has a briefcase, and he shakes your hand. It says, "I'm Mr. Wallace. I'll be representing you. Ms. Sinclair sent me here to represent your interests. We should find a room and discuss this."
Represent my interests? I thought this was just a friendly conversation. There's something going on.
Mr. Wright, you are in the Los Angeles Police Department, well, actually the Los Angeles County Police Department, and we need to make sure that you are not going to get into any sort of legal circumstances that are going to be difficult for you to get out of.
Okay, he loosens his tie up, and he's like, "This sounds serious. I guess we should talk. Where's Betty? I thought if you're here, she's coming, right?"
She called and dispatched me. I'm on retainer with her. She's my client, but by extension, you are now my client. We have attorney-client privilege. Ms. Sinclair is not going to be coming.
No, maybe you should just call her, and we're in this together, so she should be here for this.
And that is why Miss Sinclair has sent me here, because as you say, you're in it together.
All right. Let's go talk about whatever. I mean, I don't even know what the hell's going on. They just said they wanted to see the paperwork.
Oh, good. You brought the paperwork. Let's discuss it. And you go to a room that is closed off. And it's at this point that, Jack, you arrive and you are told that she's in there with her. He's in there with his attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right.
So now you can't do anything until they're done. But he has an attorney, so that's interesting. All right, so he sits down and he starts going through the paperwork. Mr. Wright, you are a suspect from both the city and the county for the murder of Mr. Carter.
What the hell? That they said they just wanted paperwork. Murder?
He was found dead this morning, shot. And the reason you are a suspect is because there were $50,000 deposited into an investment account. That you were the source. That $50,000 is now missing.
What?
The $50,000, he's looking at the notes, US dollars deposited into account 157342-1, which was the investment account for Los Palominos.
Yeah.
All funds have been withdrawn by an unknown source.
All the money?
The account is closed.
The account was closed. Holy shit. No. This has got to be a mistake, because I've got this paperwork, and he opens one of the other folders up and he slides it over to Wolowitz and he says, "Look here, it says at $25,000 each, me and Betty, and I covered hers, but yeah, we're both partners now in the business in Carter and Associates. This is a paperwork that says we're full partners as of yesterday."
You fallen on some bad times, Mr. Wright?
I mean, I didn't think so, not until you just started talking to me here 10 minutes ago.
I mean, financially, is there a reason that you would need or want $50,000 cash?
Well, I mean, there's lots of reasons people might want $50,000 cash.
I'm not talking about lots of people, Mr. Wright. I'm talking about you. Is there a reason that you would need $50,000 cash?
I like my parents, we mortgaged their house to get this money. So like we need to get it back, but Los Palominos is going to pay off. So it's not a big deal.
Okay, when you are brought in for questioning, we're going to let them in. I strongly suggest that you do not speak and let me do the talking.
Okay. Right. Okay, fine. I mean, you work for me though, not just for Betty.
You are my client.
Okay. Are you sure she shouldn't be here for this? Because she's on the paperwork.
I would like her to be, but she is not.
So are we going to show them the paperwork, or are we going to?
No. As a matter of fact, he takes the paperwork from you.
Isn't that lying though? They want us to show the paperwork.
They want to incriminate you so that they can close this case and move on.
Wait, like prison? Like murder?
Yes, premeditated. This is not anything that you should be representing yourself about. So just let me do the talking.
Okay.
It'll be fine.
Great. Yeah, let's get this over with. I need to go home, and I don't know how I'm going to tell my parents about this.
I think you have bigger issues than your parents. And the less people you tell about this in any amount of detail, the better.
All right,
Okay.
fine. You're the professional, so
Let's bring the investigator in. So they let you in. Jack.
So he comes in, kind of head in a folder, looking down, and then he takes it out, like he closes it quickly, like with a clap, like he's about to interrogate someone, and then looks over and goes, Dean Wright, son of a bitch, how are you doing?
hey, Jack. I was doing better till I got this phone call this morning.
What hell? What do you? And he throws the thing on the table, like that's not important right now.
Officer, I am Mr.
Well, it's
Wallace. I am Mr. Wallace. I'll be representing the client. Please.
Great. All right. Well, you know what? That's Dean and I go way back. We go way back. Listen, Dean actually is he's looking at Dean. Is this guy really need to be here? Like, are you?
look. He says you're trying to pin some kind of.
I think that he's like tying down the client. I have been retained to talk on my client's behalf. What questions does the City and County of Los Angeles have for Mr. Wright?
He opens up the folder again, like defeated. Sure. All right. Well, we'd like to see any and all paperwork regarding Mr. Wright's business with Carter and Associates.
We would be happy to deliver any paperwork that a judge has ordered us to deliver.
Of course. Listen, Dean, I understand what's going on here. And
That makes one of us.
I want you to know that if you didn't do anything, you don't have anything to worry about. And then I look back to the lawyer and I say, now, I pull out like a piece of paper and I say, these are the things, this is the information we require from your client. Dean, where were you at the time of X? Where, like, and I go through the list of like generic questions that you would ask a suspect in front of their lawyer. And so he sort of goes through those, and I'm sure I get a lot of no comments.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not giving anything.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to appeal to Dean, Dean, you don't have to do what the lawyer tells you to do. But if you are trying to get him to open up, you can try to make a move to do that, or you can just play it out like it is.
I think I will try to get Dean to open up.
Yeah.
So after reading the list of questions to the lawyer, I think I look back to Dean and I say, now this is going to seem all very scary because those questions were very specific, and I want you to know that I will do everything I can to make sure that whoever is responsible for this comes to justice.
All right, so it sounds like you're doing a rally. You're trying to get others to help you.
Yeah.
Which is a morality roll.
Okay.
And is this refuting the call? I don't think it is.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think I'm refuting, because this is I want to get you to help with the investigation. Because I mean, if you stonewall me, I can't help you. So yeah, I think I'm not sure how to engage that refuting the call.
Yeah, not yet. We'll know it when it happens.
Okay, so I'm going to rally you to help me with this investigation. Jesus, these dice. All right, that's a 5.
Okay. Well, there's no incentive then for Dean to help.
Okay.
I think the lawyer's probably too scary, but.
And I pick up on the fact that you say, this is scary. And I stare you down, just cold eyes. And I'm like, you think this is scary? You weren't at Normandy. You never fought. You never saw action. You don't know what it is to be afraid. Hell, you don't even know what it is to be a man. You've just sat here this whole time in the U.S. You think you know what my life is like.
And you can have that for your record, investigator.
Yeah. All right, Dean. Good luck. And he turns and walks out of the office. Damn it, why does everybody...
I'm wondering if this makes an antagonistic
Yeah, I think Dean is now an antagonist for me.
Your motivations are in conflict.
Yeah.
Okay. So we take each other as an antagonist?
Yeah. That's an important thing I forgot to do in chapter 2, which is to redefine your motivations.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. We're supposed to do that. But anyway, it's clear that there's a conflict here. All right, so then the lawyer will then help you define your statements. And, obviously your character's innocent, so it's not like it's going to be hard. But they do let you go because you're going to work on a statement.
Okay.
In the meantime, the two of you are going into the desert together?
Yes. I probably drive very fast and very reckless.
So this is a Studebaker, so you could probably hit 60.
Mm-hmm.
It's Studebaker Starlight. It could go at least 65.
But there's definitely a lot of like I don't slow down enough at corners kind of thing. Very reckless driving.
Yeah, there's no freeway out to the desert at this point. It's a 2-laner for sure.
Yeah,
and it'll probably take a good 4 hours to get there. Are you heading to? Well, where are you going exactly?
I think we're going to go to the Los Palominos development because I think that's where the story is, and then see exactly what's happening at this development. So
actually, I guess it'd be more like 2 hours. And I thought you were going up to Palmdale.
Well, we might on the eventually get there.
Eventually, yeah, we're headed to the development first.
Okay, so it's nighttime. You've arrived at the development. There is, your typical construction trailers, and where the office is, marked by the Carter and Associate logo, and they have broken ground on construction.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't see the foreman. You don't see any workers. It's nighttime. Maybe that's because they're off. But there are supposed to be trailers for the workers. And the trailers are all gone.
This doesn't seem right. I feel like there should be more people here.
Yeah. So this is what your investment got you. I called in Gladys on the way here. You're involved, Miss Sinclair. This is your first time out here?
Yes. I mean, I usually just let the people that I hire handle my business dealings for me, and I show up for ceremonies and things.
What's your relationship to Mr. Wright?
Oh,
Purely
thank you.
professional. I mean, we're investors. Ah, nice. Very nice. She is
Sure.
the best freaking wife. She brought
Yeah.
you more coffee.
Yeah, I know. She likes to broadcast it.
Yeah, no, I mean, purely professional.
Yeah, but
He
what's the angle? This letter he wrote makes a big deal of his development. Kind of gives it that social angle. Anyone could develop land out here, but yeah, it seems a little more personal. Hey, speaking of personal, notice that you and Jack knew each other, maybe old friends. Can I
you
say friends
you
in a
you
creepy way?
yeah, for you working on a story, Wally? Is this
Yeah,
on the record or off the record?
this story might have a few angles.
Well, then I'm going to be very tight-lipped about my relationship with the people that are involved unless some of this goes off the record.
Well, that's your call. Well, and the truth always comes out. So
Well, then my
anyway,
relationship with both Mr. Wright and Jack are purely professional, and that's all you need to know at this point.
okay, we'll see. So all this time we're slowly walking towards
Yeah.
the contractor's office and kind of peering in through the windows, see if the lights are on, or
Hmm.
Yeah, you see. Yeah, there's a guy in there, his feet up, drinking some whiskey. Flipping through a magazine.
So does it? You said it looks like they've broken ground. Does it look like they've actually done any work, or that this office, portable office, is just sitting here in the middle of a dirt field?
No, they've done some work. They've started laying down the foundation,
Okay.
but there's no workers, and the trailers are all gone. So
Right.
you can see the equipment and the supplies, and it is just starting. Construction
Right.
only started recently, but the contractor's there in his trailer, and that's the only person that you can see.
Okay. So Wally, how do you want to play this?
well, I think yeah, maybe we'll just go the news angle. These guys like to talk. I knock on the door.
He kind of like jumps up and puts his whiskey away and opens the door. Like, who's there?
Wally Walker, Examiner.
Examiner, what are you doing all the way out here?
We heard there was a new development out here. Thought it might be good feature for our lifestyle section. Wanted to see what was up.
Boy, it is 8:00 at night.
It's a long drive from the city.
All right, come on in. Construction's on hold, though. There's nothing to talk about. I had to send all the boys home.
Oh, why is it on hold? I understood there was some funding recently.
Well, I hear the funding's been pulled. I was waiting to hear from the suits about it, but I'm just sitting here waiting. We can't break no more ground. We have to wait for them for the suits to sign off.
So, I heard there's a kind of a leadership change at Carter and Associates, and I'm not sure who's actually paying you. So, is there another person we could talk to? I think there might be some opportunities out here for people in the city.
Yeah, Lester Camp is my guy. He's over out in Palmdale.
Lester Camp.
That's the guy. That was the guy that was killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting. I kind of look over at Betty quizzically, like that name doesn't mean much to me right now. So
you said you heard that the funding had been pulled and you guys were on hold. When did you get that? When did you get that information?
Oh, I don't know. Courier got here about what 9:30 something this morning. I sent everybody home right after breakfast.
Do you mind if I see that letter?
Yeah, sure. pulls out a letter out of the trash can, has coffee grinds on it, and kind of shakes it. Yeah, here you go. Sorry, I didn't know you're going to need it.
So I read it. Who's it like signed by?
It's signed by Mr. Carter, and the letter is just a memo saying project has been suspended, and please wait for further correspondence, but the job is on hold. It has a signature on it and on the letterhead.
What's the date on it?
It's this morning. But there's no time. It's just, it was
what a courier service brought this in?
Raymond's courier.
Yeah,
they're the boys that always send us messages all the way out here.
Mm. Right.
The times may fit, Betty. Well, what are you guys gonna do now that's been on hold? Obviously, you're still here. You think it's gonna go back again?
I was expecting something this afternoon. I'm just going to go back to the office in Palmdale in the morning.
Has anyone else been here since you started breaking ground?
Oh, lots of people. You got all these people with clipboards all the damn time.
Hmm.
When was the last time you talked to anybody over there at Carter and Associates directly, either Mr. Carter or Mr. Camp?
Oh, you're all starting to sound like police officers or something. Is something wrong?
No, I'm just concerned that my investment here is being delayed.
Oh.
I'm Betty Sinclair, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. My pleasure.
Yeah. Yes, it's nice to meet you.
Oh no, I talked to Lester yesterday. He called me on. He called me on the. We had to go down to town, and I just called him up. He said everything was fine. You got the funding. I don't know what changed between yesterday and today.
That is very strange. I don't know, Wally.
Well, it looks like we're going to Palmdale.
It does. Do you have a line out here? Do we have to go into town to make a call?
No, you have to go into town. That's not set up. We got months away from that.
I booked a motel on the way to Palmdale.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say we should probably stay in town since it's nighttime.
Yeah, well, we can stay there until the news catches up. Maybe make a few calls. I'm sorry, what was your name again, sir? I think you said it, but I can't remember what it was. So
Walter
Cross. I slipped Walter I hand him a cigar, one of those Presidentes, and wrapped around it is a $5 bill. Hey, we're trying to get the jump on the story. So if a McCluskey from the Times calls, you didn't hear anything. In fact, if anyone calls, you can give the Examiner a call, ask for Gladys. She'll make sure she gets me the message.
Okay, yeah, you got it.
Sounds good. So as we go out to the car, I'm gonna tell Wally I gotta make a couple phone calls when we get to the hotel.
Yeah, about that. I booked one room.
Well, I'll be getting my own when we get there.
Alrighty, let's go.
I'm
defeated already.
This dive of a motel, like it's not someplace I would normally stay.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. The motels in this era were sort of the creme de la creme. I mean, this is the heyday of Route 66, and
true, but it's still out in the middle of nowhere, which probably is nowhere near my penthouse.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's not the Waldorf Astoria.
Right, exactly.
So I think when the Studebaker pulls in, Wally says, "Hey, I'm really tired. I'm just gonna go straight to the cafe and get something to eat. Maybe make a call to my office. I don't want to keep you from the room, so don't mind me. You can knock on my door. I'm on 108."
All right. Well, I'll be heading to the front desk to get my own room. Thank you.
I immediately head to the phone and
I keep the car keys, so he can't leave me here.
I immediately head to the phone, call the home office, call everything in. I'm not sure if Gladys will still be there, but I leave a message for Gladys. Give me everything you have on this land deal, all the partners. Forward anything from me. Tell Roger that I'm onto something big. We might need a photographer. Betty Sinclair's with me. Huge story. And I also leave a message at at Jack's office, telling him where I'm going.
All right. Well, let's go back to LA then. And so, Jack, what are you up to at this point?
Well, I think next step is follow the money. Does Jack know? Do I know the that the accounts were closed and all that? Like that was information that they had, but we have that as well, right?
Yeah, you know that.
So I think I'm calling the banks or whoever was managing those accounts, because I mean there would be a paper trail.
Yeah.
So I'd be trying to find out who closed out that account and where that money went.
Yeah, the account was closed by Mr. What's your dad's name? Betty? What was it?
Geez. Let's go with Timothy Sinclair.
All right. Yeah, the account was closed by Tennessee Sinclair. And you also found a banknote matching the closure of that account, entering Sheriff Keller's account.
Mm.
And it's a clear paper trail, and it seems like nobody cares about that.
Okay, so we have a clear paper trail leading from the account was closed and the 50 grand was put into Sheriff Keller's account.
It's in his election campaign.
Yeah, it's an election campaign. Okay. Do we know who closed the account? Like, do we have the name? Oh, and it was Tim. It was Tim.
Yeah. You said Timothy. I heard Tennessee.
I like Tennessee better.
I actually like Tennessee better, and when you said it, I went, "Oh yeah, no, that's totally it's gonna be Tennessee."
Okay. So Tennessee closed the account. And wait, isn't Tennessee dead? I thought the money was in probate.
Yeah, the money was in probate.
So how did Tennessee close an account yesterday? Okay.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, it's banks. They don't have computers.
Yeah. So who the hell did that? So shit. You know what? There's probably a teller. So I'm gonna see if I can get a description or like someone who because it's face to face, right? Unless it was over the phone.
Yeah.
So then I would probably go to the bank and see if I can get a description of the person who closed the account to make sure see if it matches up with Tennessee or if it's just some random person putting his name.
All right, and then what's going on with Mr. Wright?
So I think that I would like to show up at the VA for a beverage, knowing that Jack normally hangs out there after work, and get some off the record time.
Okay.
So, Jack, if you're cool with it, you're already sitting up at the bar, and I pull up the chair next to you and order a couple of beers, whatever you're normally drinking.
So he kind of nods and thanks for the beer, and then looks over and says, "What's the matter? No lawyer this time?"
Hey, look, I'm sorry I blew up at you earlier. That was it was intense. I mean, I've never been called in to the police station before, and then somebody tells me it's felony murder and, whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry, all right? That was uncalled for, but I figured I could just come talk to you off the record here and be all right, right? We could get some things straightened out.
Of course, Dean. You can always talk to me. Look, it's water under the bridge. It was a stressful time. I understand. Tell me, how did you get mixed up in all this?
Look, Jackie, I'm just trying to, I got sent home from the war. I didn't feel like I did my part, you probably know what that's like.
Yeah,
But,
I know what that's like.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to make my own way in the world, prove what I'm worth. And I figured, hey, this big land deal, this is the way to do it, right? Create something new, build something where there was nothing, right? But I got no cash. I can't get a job anywhere in town. Like, nobody wants somebody that's got a bum leg. So, I had to find something else. But my parents, like, they put their house on the line for all of this. If it falls flat, they're going to lose the house. They're going to be out on their butts.
You mortgaged the house for this?
Where else am I going to get this kind of money?
No, I hear you. I hear you. It's a bold play. It's a bold move. I'll give you that. But listen, there's some politics here that are going to make this messy, and I'm trying to find out where that money went. But
What do you mean politics, though? Like, you have a lead on something? And he orders another round over.
yeah. Are you trying to get me to like divulge more than he normally would?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. So do you want me to make a roll?
Is that a roll, or I'm kind of curious because I don't think he would just tell you.
Yeah, that's a roll then.
Okay. Is this a befriend roll because I'm currently rising?
Yes, you can use that, which is better than navigate others.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right.
And are you protagonist or you're antagonist now, right?
We're currently
We are
antagonists.
antagonists.
So that means you, when you're playing, you get a favor if you're rolling against an antagonist.
Oh, so I get to automatically add a third die?
Yeah, and you pick the highest two.
Okay. Good deal. Ooh, dang it. I got 2 cocked dice here. There we go. Oh, that's, but I still get to add personality.
Yeah.
So that's an 8.
All right. That means then that you will, Jack, you'll get a +1 arc if you go along with it.
All right, I think I'm going to take the arc because he looked up to Dean. So all right, listen. So he gets in and he gets kind of quiet. I'm not going to whisper because it'll be hard to pick up on the mic. But listen, Dean, the Force isn't. It's not the crusade I thought it was going to be. It's not what I thought I was going to get. I thought I was going to get to make my mark and make up for all the shit I didn't do and didn't get to do. And it turns out that every damn person in front of me wants nothing more than to just maintain that status quo. And I've had a hell of a time getting the kind of justice for the people that I wanted. I did a little digging. Tennessee Sinclair closed that account. But Tennessee Sinclair is dead. Or is supposed to be? I haven't figured that part out yet. And well, it looks like with Sheriff Keller's re-election campaign got a nice big donation recently.
Wait, are you saying the money from my parents' house went to the sheriff?
That's what it looks like, Dean.
Well, you can get it back though, right, Jackie?
I can try, but damned if it ain't going to be me against the world.
No, come on. Anything I can do, and I'm sure anything Betty can do. You know, if her family name is wrapped up in this, I'm sure we're both behind you 110%.
Well, it might be interesting to find out what Betty thinks about her deceased father walking around closing accounts.
Yeah, I don't think she'd take too kindly to that. So I haven't been able to get a hold of her. You know where she is?
Fuck. Wally wanted to go out to Palmdale. You up for a drive?
Lights and sirens?
If we're lucky.
All right, let me just kill this one and let's.
Quick, buy me a beer. I'll drive us home.
All right, sweet.
All right.
What are you talking about? You take it with you. It's the
Yeah.
40s.
Just take it with you.
You might even get a few bottles on the way out of town.
Yep.
So, Jack, would you go back to the station or back to your house before you headed out, or would you just head out from the bar?
Or do you call in to your office?
I probably call in to say that I'm running. Well, actually, I'm off duty. Right? It's the middle of the night.
Yeah, it's late. It's after 8. We know that much.
Yeah, so I'm off duty, so I don't have to call in unless I'm not going to be in the morning. So I probably won't have to call until the morning. But I probably get messages at this bar.
Okay.
So if someone's sending me like trying to call, I can probably receive messages at this bar.
Okay, because I was going to try and call you when I finally got to my room. I was going to try to get a hold of you. Do you think I'd be able to track you down to this bar? Does everyone know that Jack's at this bar?
Yeah, well, if he's not at the station, he's probably here.
Okay. All right. All right, so I'd call the bar and I'd ask for Jack.
There's your phone, Jack. Got a call.
Yeah, who is it?
Jack, it's Betty.
Betty. We was just talking. I was just. Where are you at?
Jack, I'm scared. I let Wally convince me to come out here to Los Palominos. And I'm scared. There's a lot more going on here than I realized, and so, things aren't making sense, and I'm scared, and I should have listened to you. I shouldn't have left the city.
Listen, Betty, I was actually planning on coming out that way. Why don't you stay put? And
I'm at the Sunset Motel.
Wait, we have a refute the call here if we want to play it this way. Betty wants to go back and give up on this because it's too big, whereas Jack wants to go out and continue it. So if you are intransigent about leaving, then Jack can roll against you, and that would be a conflict move.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm down for that.
And we still have 2 conflicts in play, or you can create one. One is the LA. Both of them apply: corruption in the force, LA County Sheriff election.
I think this for me. This is the election because I want to know what's going on with that money.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I mean, this can be well.
Oh, I'm
I think
rising
you're
now.
I think you're rising because it works for rally. But if you wanted to do a different thing, no, it's your moral responsibility to help us fix the corrupt system.
Mm-hmm.
Would be make a moral stand. It's up to you. A lot of these apply. It depends on how you want to play it.
I think I want to establish trust with Betty. That I
Okay.
can protect her if she just stays out there and waits for me.
All right. Are you a protagonist or antagonist?
We are not.
We are neither.
All right. So it's just a straight personality roll.
These friggin' dice. Okay. Upon failing a move, you can tie your motivation to the conflict and re-roll without spending a plot point once per chapter.
Awesome.
My motivation is still reject and serve because we never did that, and I think I am rejecting the sheriff. So I'm going to try to re-roll these dice. Come on, dice. Wow, it's the same, different numbers, same result. So that's a 6.
All right. Well, unfortunately, the conflict is not resolved.
Nope, I cannot win.
And you have no incentive to listen to him.
I'm kind of stuck here at the motel. I've got Wally's keys, but I don't want to be here alone anymore.
Listen, Betty, it's gonna be okay. I'm on my way. Dean and I will be there in like 2 hours. We'll run the lights. Okay, we'll be there. Just hold tight. Just get in your room. Shut the door. We'll be right there.
Okay. So I kind of lock myself in my room and wait for Jack and Dean to show up.
Okay. Anything happens before they get there? What are you doing, Molly?
What do we need to get to the end of this chapter?
Refute the call. I mean, I can
All
make because we're doing a one shot and we have a time limit. I might just go ahead and progress this over because this feels like we're reaching the meeting anyway.
Sure.
If we were playing without time constraints, we would keep playing until that call was refuted.
All right. Let me see if I could get us there faster, or not faster, but quickly. Wally knocks on Betty's door in the middle of the night.
All right.
Maybe an hour after the call.
Okay. I go over and listen at the door, but I don't open the door. Jack, is that you?
Miss Sinclair, it's Wally.
Oh, what do you want?
Just I want to go over what we're doing tomorrow.
What? No.
No?
No, go away.
Listen, you gotta trust me.
No, it's the middle of the night. I'm not letting you in. I don't trust you. Go away.
This is important. It's for your own safety.
My own safety right now is to keep you on the other side of this door.
I wouldn't be knocking if it wasn't important.
It sounds like she already is refuting the call.
Yeah.
I am refuting your call.
So let's go ahead and roll that. You would need to convince him to leave, essentially.
Okay.
So this is probably...
I am rising right now.
You are rising. All right. So this could be protect yourself if you want the instinct roll. That's probably the most applicable. On the flat side, you could say...
Sure. We'll go to protect myself. 8.
All right. That's awesome. Okay, so that means then, Wally, you get an arc if you listen to her and just go away.
Okay, I'll do that.
Also, this has resolved a conflict for the chapter, so that means... we didn't tell you which conflict you were dealing with. I think technically for the mechanics to work out, you would have had to create a conflict.
Right.
So do you have a plot point, Betty, that you can use to do that? Sorry, that was my bad.
Sure.
And the conflict is you don't trust this guy, right?
Yeah, the conflict is my distrust of Wally.
Okay. All right, so we created a new conflict, and that costs you a plot point, but you get a plot point because we're into the next chapter.
Hey.
Everybody gets another plot point. Well, no, that's not true. Protagonists get plot points. I got this mixed up. Everybody gets a plot point. Protagonists get an arc. Antagonists lose an arc. That's the chapter roll. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So wait, what happens?
So everybody gets a new plot point because we're in a new chapter. If all of the antagonists of Betty lose an arc, all the protagonists gain an arc.
So Dean gets an arc.
Yeah, and
Wally loses one.
And you also, Betty, you get an arc for winning that roll.
Okay.
So
And we need to talk about motivations, Chris.
Motivations. Thank you. Yes, everybody gets new motivations now that we know what's going on. This chapter that we're playing out is the meeting. So this is when we really understand what the ordeal of the story is. And I got to tell you, I've run this game a lot. You never know what the ordeal is until it's revealed. I mean, you might have suspicions, but it always sneaks up on you. So prepare for that. But once we know the ordeal, then this basically means the thing that the story is about. That's all presented in the meeting, and then you basically prepare to confront it, and then you crush the threshold. That's the move that takes us into the next chapter, where you'll actually be confronting the ordeal. So this is the rise to conflict. This is when things get interesting. Also, I'd like to say, I mean, I'm looking at the time, and I want to propose something to you, because as a novelist, I can truncate this and shortcut it and make it happen in our time. Or we could play it at the pace we're playing, which I personally like, because we're getting kind of deep in it. And we could schedule a session too to play the second half of the story. Would you be up for that? Then we wouldn't have to worry about rushing.
I'm up for scheduling second halves.
Yeah,
okay. We could probably even do it as soon as in a couple weeks, depending on everybody's schedule. So if you're cool with that, then I won't feel pressure to move us faster. This game is best when you take your time. Cool. So in that light, then I would like to play out this chapter for the next. Well, let's see. I'm looking at the reason I brought this up because I'm looking at the time, and I'm looking at the afternoon ahead. So maybe we could spend the next half hour or so kind of setting up the next chapter, and then we can cut it there, and then do the second half at another time. Is that good?
Sure thing.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, cool. Because then I can go to lunch with the family and have the rest of the afternoon.
How dare you?
They're talking sushi today. I can't, can't not. All right, so the meeting, we know what that's about. Let's work on motivations. Let's take, well, we don't need to take a break since we're going to wrap soon. And then we'll in media res the next chapter. Motivations, it's helpful if you start discussing it. That way everybody will sort of know where the protagonist and antagonists lay.
Is uncover the truth like too broad for a motivation for me? Okay.
No. You can go broad or specific. Now, if you go specific, that means there's a lot of responsibility on you to make that thing happen in the narrative.
I'm going with friends are worth their weight in gold.
I like that. That's really good.
Does this replace the prior motivation completely? Okay.
Yeah. Or you can continue the same motivation if it makes more sense.
What are you doing, Jack?
Sorry, I'm muted. I am doing uncover the truth.
Okay.
I felt too obvious, but I think it fits as a
Cool.
detective.
Yeah. What do you have? Go
I'm
ahead.
thinking follow the money.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's sort of what we're doing already.
Yeah.
But that's perfect.
So, I mean, you can mark each other as protagonists
Yeah, I think
because
that makes
obviously your motivations are the same.
Okay.
So we are no longer antagonists.
Groovy.
I don't know that Wally and I are protagonists anymore. What's your motivation now, Wally?
My motivation now is to be the first person to figure it all out. So
Now it's a competition, I see.
yeah, it's slightly more competitive between Jack and Wally.
Yeah. Does that make us antagonists? Are you going to actively try to stop me, prevent me from figuring out before you?
I think that's something he needs to resolve as a character. Like, what does that mean? Like when that really comes into play, is which is more important, the story or the justice? Definitely, he views Jack as super essential because Jack is will be the authority that he'll need to break the story. So
maybe we stay protagonists until like a role tells us otherwise.
That sounds good.
I don't know what to put with Betty. What's yours?
Mine is friends are worth their weight in gold. So
Oh, that's right.
I was muted for that.
I
I heard you on Kurt's mic.
Yeah, you can hear me through Kurt's.
Do they trust each other yet, or did that role say otherwise?
I feel like the phone call may have tipped us towards protagonists. Like I'm asking for help. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I agree. Kind of, I'm gonna end up being protagonist with everybody in this next scene.
I feel like Wally and I are definitely still antagonists, though.
What? All right, whatever.
I don't trust you.
It's a conflict on the board, man.
I don't like you. It's not going to happen.
Okay. Well, would not be the first time in one of Chris Gray's games. So,
We were on the same side last time, so I
Okay.
mean, we're just mixing it up.
That's true. That's true.
sure.
I guess I bring something out in you, Gene.
The psychology of this runs deep. I'll go where I think the story needs to go. So, we're all good.
Okay, so let's look at what we've started here. As a reminder, our themes are the American dream. And I'm definitely getting a lot of that. There's this, new subdivision that we're trying to build. We have money to begin our dreams, and our dreams are at stake. And we've left the war, and we're back, and we're. So I see a lot of that in there. I think we're doing a great job on that. The other one is Fall from Grace. Something as I did as a novelist, I was starting to think about this one, and I don't think this is necessarily going to be one of the characters. We could see it, but I think there are some NPCs that will definitely fit into this category if it plays out that way. So I think we're good there. I do like to check in on the themes because I find that we forget about them as players. This last game I played once, we had completely forgotten we wanted horror. So I literally brought in a psychotic clown. It turned that boat around right away. So yeah, it's good to keep tab on that. Now our current conflicts. Oh, I put this in the wrong place. We do have the setting conflicts, and we have a new one. Betty doesn't trust Wally. Now, when that conflict is resolved, it'll leave the board, and we can't use it anymore. The setting conflicts will stay the same. That's where we are, and I think this is probably a good place to wrap up a bit. And I appreciate the flexibility. I would love to play another session. That way, we can take our time with it and really play the story out. But I think you have a good glimpse of how the mechanics work and how the game's supposed to run. Any thoughts on that?
I
like it.
I really like it. I really like what you've done here with your setting and your hack of PBTA. I really like it a lot. I actually don't like PBTA at all, but I like Great American Novels. So if that says anything,
Well,
I'm rather boisterous about how much I hate PBTA. So
it borrows a lot from PBTA, but I don't think it fits the framework. It's a very different approach. It's actually more like Fate, I think, in how it works. But it does take a lot from in terms of the playbook, and then the spectrum of success. But yeah, it is. It's kind of a new type of PBTA, I guess.
Yeah, I am really enjoying myself. So I think it's a lot of fun. The characters are very compelling. The only thing I wish you had done was offer us plot points to screw our characters over.
I always forget that. Thank you for that. I will. What ends up happening with this is I sit back and observe.
Yeah. Is it something where players can offer other players plot points to interject that?
Yeah, why not? That's a good idea. That sounds great.
Cool.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. We'll do this again. So this will be part 1. We'll have a part 2. We'll schedule it and get it up hopefully within the month. So thanks for joining. We'll still be on after I stop the broadcast so we can chat some more.
Cool.
Bye, Internet.
Bye, Internet.